The council chamber was enormous, stretching far higher than any building on Earth. Tall windows glowed with the light of distant stars, and the walls seemed to hum with quiet energy. Around the room, leaders from countless worlds sat in a mix of colors and shapes. Some had smooth, glowing skin, while others had scales, feathers, or patterns that shifted like liquid. Each leader carried an air of authority, and the room buzzed with quiet tension. This was a place where the fate of planets could be decided with a few words, gestures, or signatures. In the center of the room, a small group of humans walked calmly. They wore simple uniforms, no grand decorations or symbols of power. Despite being outnumbered and surrounded by creatures that looked like they came from every corner of the galaxy, the humans moved with confidence. They were polite, measured, and careful in every step, but their eyes were sharp. Every glance, every whisper, every unusual movement caught their attention. They were not here just to sign papers. They were here to understand, to watch, and to decide for themselves what was truly happening. The other leaders immediately noticed the difference. Many had expected humans to be either anxious or overly polite, the way other species often behaved in such meetings. But these humans were quiet observers, calculating and calm. They did not rush, they did not panic, and they did not speak unnecessarily. This unsettled some of the delegates. A few shifted uncomfortably in their seats, whispering to one another. The humans seemed to see through the small tricks, the hidden agendas, and the attempts to intimidate. When the meeting officially began, the air grew heavier. The representatives from various worlds started speaking, offering polite greetings, while subtly trying to assert dominance. Some tried to pressure the humans, suggesting that Earth owed something for past conflicts. Others hinted at alliances or forces that could be used if humans did not agree to certain demands. But the humans listened, nodded occasionally, and took notes. They did not argue or show irritation. They simply recorded, observed, and stayed silent when most others would have reacted. A leader from a world with metallic skin and glowing eyes spoke first. Their voice rang clearly through the chamber, demanding that humans agree to limitations on Earth's technology. Another delegate, with long flowing tendrils instead of arms, suggested that humans accept an oversight council that could monitor everything Earth did. Each idea was presented with polite words, but heavy threats hidden underneath. The humans responded only with calm questions, asking for clarification and pointing out details others had overlooked. Each question was precise, focused, and quietly firm. It was clear they were not here to be pressured or tricked. As the discussion continued, whispers filled the room. Some leaders tried to outmaneuver the humans with gestures, subtle threats, or even attempts to confuse them with technical language. But the humans were steady. They noticed every detail, from tiny gestures to the unspoken tension between other leaders. They were paying attention not just to the words, but to the intentions behind them. It was almost as if they could read the room better than anyone else, even the council members who had been part of interstellar politics for centuries. Time seemed to stretch as the session went on. The humans never lost focus. When one alien leader leaned forward, trying to pressure them into a hasty answer, the humans simply paused, exchanged quiet signals with one another, and waited. They were patient, knowing that rushing could mean making a mistake. Other leaders began to notice that these humans were not like any species they had dealt with before. The calmness, the patience, and the attention to detail sent a subtle but powerful message. Humans were not easily intimidated, and they were not naive. Finally, after hours of discussion, a pause came. The humans looked around the chamber, silently observing every face, every reaction. They had not made a single concession yet. Some leaders tried to hide their frustration, but others could not. The humans were here on their own terms, and every other species sensed it. The balance in the room had shifted. What had begun as a routine negotiation now felt unpredictable. For the first time in generations, some delegates were unsure of what would happen next. Even outside the chamber, the humans' quiet confidence sent ripples through the galaxy. Word spread that Earth's representatives were calm, focused, and fully aware of every trick or manipulation attempted. While many leaders had assumed humans would be easy to pressure or influence, they were now realizing that these humans were not just negotiators. They were observers, planners, and decision-makers. Nothing could be rushed. Nothing could be hidden. By the end of this first part of the meeting, it was clear to everyone. The humans were watching, waiting, and preparing to act on their own terms. No one had expected this level of calm, clarity, and strength. And while no one yet knew the full extent of Earth's plans, one thing was certain. Any attempt to manipulate these humans would not succeed. The stage was set for something that no other species could have predicted. As the discussion in the chamber continued, the humans realized that not everyone present was truly interested in peace. While some leaders genuinely wanted to resolve conflicts, many others had hidden agendas. They smiled politely and nodded, but their eyes flickered with suspicion, fear, or even greed. The humans quietly took note of every detail, trying to understand who could be trusted and who was simply playing a game to gain an advantage. A leader with translucent skin and shimmering veins spoke first, claiming that Earth had already caused several disputes in the galaxy. The accusation was carefully phrased to sound reasonable, but the humans could tell it was an exaggeration meant to pressure them. Another delegate, whose body seemed to ripple like water, suggested that humans should give up certain technology in exchange for protection. The room seemed calm on the surface, but tension was building beneath it. Every word, every gesture was loaded with hidden meaning. The humans listened carefully. They asked questions politely but firmly, pointing out inconsistencies without sounding confrontational. When the leader with translucent skin claimed humans had disrupted trade routes, one human representative calmly asked for evidence and clarification. The leader sputtered, unable to provide a clear answer. A ripple of whispers ran through the room, and several delegates began to realize that the humans were not only observing, they were analyzing everything with precision. It became clear that some delegates were trying to manipulate the situation to their advantage. A few subtly tried to corner the humans with clauses in the peace agreement that would leave Earth vulnerable. One proposed a council that would oversee all human activity, claiming it was for fairness and transparency. Another suggested that humans hand over advanced technology as a gesture of trust. The humans stayed calm, listening and questioning, never agreeing or refusing outright. Their silence and patience were unsettling to the other species. The humans noticed something else. Behind the polite words, many leaders were nervous. Some whispered to each other in strange languages, exchanging worried glances. The humans realized that their reputation for intelligence, strategic thinking, and discipline was stronger than most had imagined. Other species had assumed humans would be intimidated by the size of the council, the number of delegates, or the exotic and powerful appearance of alien leaders. But the humans were unfazed. During a brief break, some delegates approached one another quietly, expressing concern over the humans' calm demeanor. "They do not react like other species," one said, with a voice full of tension. "They are watching everything. Every move we make is noted." Another nodded and admitted, "I think they see through us. They are not just here to negotiate. They are evaluating everyone." Even among allies, doubts began to grow. The humans' quiet observation was causing a ripple of unease across the room. The human delegation did not waste the break. They huddled together for a few minutes, whispering quietly, pointing to notes and gestures they had recorded during the first part of the session. Their strategy was clear: They would not rush into any agreement, no matter how politely it was offered. They knew that a peace built on lies or manipulation would be far worse than no peace at all. Every human representative understood that their patience was a strength. When the session resumed, the atmosphere in the chamber had changed subtly. Alien leaders who had tried to pressure the humans found themselves reconsidering their approach. They had assumed that polite smiles and careful phrasing would be enough to sway the humans. Now, they realized that the humans were not just listening, they were analyzing motivations, detecting falsehoods, and identifying weaknesses. The humans' calm presence acted like a mirror, reflecting every attempt to manipulate or deceive. One of the more aggressive delegates tried a new tactic. With a voice dripping with authority, they suggested a clause that would restrict Earth's ability to defend itself in certain regions. The humans did not react immediately. Instead, they exchanged quiet signals among themselves, studied the wording, and then asked thoughtful, probing questions. They pointed out the potential dangers and inconsistencies in the proposal without sounding hostile. The room grew tense. Other leaders leaned forward, trying to see how humans would respond. For hours, the humans maintained this careful balance. They listened without interrupting unnecessarily, questioned without accusing, and observed without reacting emotionally. Every detail was noted: the tone of voices, the placement of gestures, the small signs of fear or deception. The humans were learning more about the Council and its members than any single species could have anticipated. While the alien leaders tried to assert dominance or push hidden agendas, the humans stayed steady, like a quiet storm, ready to act only when the time was right. By the end of this part of the negotiations, a subtle shift had occurred. Many of the leaders who had once been confident were now uncertain. Some began to whisper to one another, unsure how to handle humans who refused to be pressured or deceived. The humans had not made any concessions yet, but they had made their presence known in a powerful way. They had sent a message without saying a word. Earth would not be manipulated, intimidated, or rushed. Outside the chamber, rumors began to spread. Other delegates and observers started talking quietly about the humans' behavior. "They are different," one said. "They are not like other species. They do not react in predictable ways." Another added, "Their patience, their focus. It is almost unsettling." It became clear that humans were gaining a reputation, not through force or threats, but simply through observation, intelligence, and calm confidence. By the close of this part of the negotiations, it was clear that humans had already changed the dynamic of the Council. What had begun as a routine attempt to secure peace was now a careful study of intentions, strengths, and weaknesses. The humans were not acting out of aggression. They were acting out of clarity. Every leader in the room had been forced to reconsider assumptions, reevaluate strategies, and recognize that these humans were not easily predicted. And so the first real lesson became clear to every species present. Humans were patient, strategic, and deeply aware of what was happening around them. They would not be manipulated or rushed, and every attempt to pressure them only revealed the weaknesses of those who tried. The stage was set for the next steps in the negotiation, a stage where humans were no longer just participants, but quiet leaders of the conversation, steering the discussion not with words of authority, but with the unshakable strength of observation and calm intelligence. As the negotiation moved into its next stage, the room's tension became almost tangible. The air felt heavy, thick with unspoken challenges. The humans had been quietly observing, asking careful questions, and pointing out inconsistencies for hours. Other leaders could feel the difference now. What had started as routine diplomacy was turning into a subtle power struggle. And the humans were not playing by the same rules as anyone else in the chamber. A leader with dark, ridged skin and glowing amber eyes leaned forward. Their voice was low, smooth, and commanding as they presented a clause that would heavily restrict Earth's movements in certain star systems. The clause was technically legal, cleverly written, and designed to look fair on paper, but the humans immediately recognized the danger hidden beneath the words. One of the human representatives scanned the document with calm precision, then raised a hand. Every eye in the chamber turned toward them, waiting for the human to respond. The human's voice was steady, controlled, and polite. They began to speak slowly, breaking down the clause point by point. They asked for clarification about ambiguous phrases, highlighting potential risks for Earth, and even for some of the other species involved. There was no accusation, no emotional outburst, just logical and careful reasoning. The room grew silent. Even leaders who were used to commanding entire fleets found themselves leaning forward, trying to follow the human's line of thought. It was a style of confrontation they had not expected, firm, sharp, yet completely calm. The atmosphere shifted. A few delegates exchanged nervous glances. They had assumed that humans might try to argue aggressively or panic under pressure, but these humans were different. They did not need to raise their voices to make a point. They simply dissected the situation with clarity and intelligence. Some leaders began to whisper to each other, unsure of how to handle this unexpected approach. It was clear that the humans were fully aware of every subtle intention in the room. Every word, every pause, every gesture had been noticed, recorded, and analyzed. One particularly aggressive delegate, whose body seemed to shift in shape like liquid, tried another tactic. They leaned in closer, speaking quickly, hoping to confuse the humans with complex legal phrasing and references to long-forgotten interstellar treaties. But the humans did not rush. They exchanged quiet signals among themselves, taking the time to break down the information into clear points. They asked questions that were simple but precise, revealing contradictions in the delegate's argument without even sounding critical. The liquid-shaped leader faltered. A ripple of tension spread across the room. Other species watched carefully, sensing the growing unease. Some leaders began to understand that the humans were not here merely to respond, they were here to evaluate the council itself. Every attempt at manipulation or pressure had been noticed. The humans were not just defending themselves, they were exposing the weaknesses in the strategies of others. Even allies of Earth, who had expected a smooth negotiation, started to feel nervous. The humans' calm intelligence was setting a new standard for the entire gathering. Then came the turning point. A clause was proposed that would have required humans to give up certain advanced defensive technologies, leaving Earth exposed in multiple sectors. Many in the room assumed the humans would negotiate, offer a compromise, or even reluctantly agree under pressure. But instead of arguing, the human lead representative simply closed their digital pad and looked around the chamber with a steady gaze. Silence fell immediately. Every alien leader sensed the shift in energy. This was not the calm observation of earlier. This was a signal that humans were reassessing the entire negotiation. Whispers erupted among the delegates. "They are not afraid," one said under their breath. Another admitted, "They are thinking differently than anyone else here." The humans remained composed, but their decision was clear. They would not be cornered into a deal that threatened their planet. Their calm, deliberate action carried more weight than any threat or argument in the room. Even the most seasoned leaders were unsettled. Many had assumed humans would be predictable or easily pressured. Now it was obvious that humans were neither predictable nor intimidated. They were patient, strategic, and willing to walk away from a negotiation if it was not built on fairness and honesty. The subtle, quiet strength of their presence had shifted the dynamics of the entire council. Outside observers in the chamber began to talk quietly among themselves. "They are different," one said. "Not aggressive, not emotional, just aware." Another added, "They see through everything." They are analyzing motives, intentions, and threats simultaneously. No one else can do that. Even those who had underestimated humans now had to reconsider their approach. The humans' patience and intelligence were creating a ripple of uncertainty, forcing others to rethink their own strategies. For the humans, the turning point was not just about defending Earth. It was about showing the Council that manipulation, threats, or pressure would not work. Their approach was quiet but powerful. Careful observation, logical reasoning, and patience that outlasted the attempts to intimidate them. Every leader who had come prepared to play games now had to face a truth they could not ignore. Humans were not ordinary participants in diplomacy. They were an unshakable force that refused to be controlled or underestimated. By the end of this stage, the chamber's atmosphere had changed completely. The humans had not made a single concession, but their calm, confident presence had reshaped the negotiations. Every leader present had been forced to reevaluate their assumptions, strategies, and even their own confidence. For the first time in many years, the Council was no longer in control of the narrative. The humans had subtly taken the lead, not through force, intimidation, or aggressive negotiation, but through clarity, patience, and awareness. And so, the first real test of the human strength had ended. They had not raised their voices or made dramatic gestures, yet their actions had spoken louder than words. They had observed, analyzed, and decisively shifted the balance of power in the room. Every leader who had underestimated Earth now understood one undeniable truth. Humans were not just participants in the negotiation. They were a quiet but unstoppable force that could not be manipulated, pressured, or ignored. The chamber had grown quiet, almost tense, as the humans continued to observe the proceedings. Hours of careful listening, questioning, and analyzing had brought them to a critical point. They understood clearly that some of the alien leaders were not here to make peace. They were here to manipulate, to pressure, and to take advantage. The humans had tried to reason, to clarify, and to remain calm, but now they realized that mere words would not resolve the situation. The lead human representative rose slowly, their movement deliberate and measured. Every eye in the chamber turned toward them. There was no sign of anger or panic in their expression, only a steady, confident calm. The representative's voice was calm, but firm as they spoke. They stated that Earth would not accept any agreement built on manipulation, hidden threats, or unfair terms. The words were simple, but they carried immense weight. Every species in the room felt the seriousness behind them. A few delegates tried to interrupt, to argue, or to persuade the humans to reconsider. But the humans remained composed. They politely raised their hands, signaling that they wished to finish speaking. The representative explained that peace built on dishonesty was worse than no peace at all. They emphasized that Earth had come, prepared to negotiate fairly and openly, but not to be manipulated or threatened. Their tone was calm, almost gentle, yet every word made it clear that they were unyielding. Some alien leaders shifted in their seats, their faces betraying surprise, and even a hint of fear. They had expected humans to negotiate under pressure, to compromise when faced with powerful arguments or threats. Instead, the humans were calmly drawing a clear line. No amount of politeness or subtle intimidation would move them. The room had become charged with a quiet tension. The humans were not just participants. They were setting the terms of how the conversation could continue, and they were doing so without raising their voices or showing aggression. The human delegation began to gather their documents. They moved with the same calm precision they had shown throughout the negotiation, checking their notes, exchanging quiet signals, and preparing to leave the chamber. Their actions were deliberate, showing that they had made a decision. For the alien leaders, the realization hit hard. Humans were walking away from negotiations entirely. They were not negotiating further, not compromising, and not allowing themselves to be pressured. A hushed murmur spread across the room. Some delegates were angry, unable to hide their frustration. Others were shocked, clearly struggling to comprehend the human approach. One leader with metallic, reflective skin leaned toward their neighbor and whispered, "I didn't expect them to do this. I thought they would at least make concessions." Another, with a flexible, tentacle-like body, nodded, silently, eyes wide. The humans' quiet decisiveness had disrupted every assumption in the council. The humans walked slowly toward the exit, their movements calm and controlled. Every gesture showed that they were composed, unshaken, and confident in their decision. They did not look back, but their presence lingered in the room like a quiet warning. Alien leaders who had tried to dominate or manipulate realized that they had misjudged Earth. Their assumptions that humans could be intimidated had been proven wrong. Every delegate now understood that pushing humans too far could have consequences, far greater than anyone had anticipated. As the humans reached the doors, some of the delegates attempted one last appeal. They tried to persuade, to remind humans of alliances, or to hint at potential dangers if Earth refused to agree. But the humans did not respond to threats or pleas. They simply maintained their calm composure, acknowledging the words politely, but making no movement to change their decision. Their silence carried as much power as any argument could have. Once the humans left the chamber, the room erupted in discussion. Voices rose as delegates argued among themselves, trying to process what had just happened. Some expressed frustration at having lost control, while others admitted quietly that humans had proven themselves far more capable and determined than expected. A few species who had been quietly observing took careful note of how humans handled the situation, understanding that Earth was not to be underestimated. Outside the chamber, the humans remained calm. They were already reviewing their plans, thinking several steps ahead and preparing for what might come next. There was no triumph or celebration, only quiet confidence and clarity of purpose. They had acted decisively, with integrity and without fear. The decision to walk away was not born from anger or pride, but from a clear understanding of what was acceptable and what was not. This moment marked a turning point. The humans had shown that their approach to negotiation was different from any other species in the council. They did not rely on aggression, manipulation, or intimidation. Instead, they relied on careful observation, clarity, and patience. Walking away from a compromised negotiation demonstrated not weakness, but strength. It sent a clear message. Humans would not compromise on their values, their safety, or their planet's interests. By the time the humans were gone, the council had become a room of uncertainty. Alien leaders whispered, reconsidered strategies, and tried to anticipate Earth's next move. Many realized that humans had achieved more by leaving than they could have through compromise. The quiet, firm action had disrupted the council's balance, forcing every species to rethink their assumptions and approach. And so, the humans' bold decision left a lasting impression. They had walked away calmly, decisively, and without anger, leaving every other species to realize that Earth was not a planet to be pressured or underestimated. Their presence, intelligence, and patience had reshaped the negotiation in a single, deliberate action, setting the stage for events that no one could have predicted. The moment the humans left the council chamber, a wave of confusion and tension spread among the remaining delegates. For weeks, months even, these leaders had prepared to meet with Earth under the assumption that humans would negotiate politely, compromise carefully, and perhaps be influenced like other species. But what had just happened completely defied their expectations. Humans had walked away, not angrily, not out of pride, but calmly and decisively, leaving every other species unsure of how to respond. Voices began to rise. Some leaders shouted over one another, demanding explanations from their colleagues. "Did you see what they did?" One asked, his tone a mix of shock and frustration. "They just left, without even negotiating." Another, with scales that shimmered in a rainbow of colors, leaned forward, whispering urgently, "I thought they would give in. We all expected it. This is dangerous." Even those who had been quietly observing the humans were visibly shaken. They had expected patience, perhaps diplomacy, but not this level of awareness, strategy, and confidence. As the debates continued, the room began to show signs of panic. Leaders who had attempted to pressure or manipulate Earth now faced the reality that their strategies had failed completely. Some admitted quietly, though not without embarrassment, that they had underestimated humans. "We thought they could be pushed," one said to a neighboring delegate. "We assumed they would respond like others do. But they didn't. They saw through everything." There was no room for doubt. Humans had demonstrated a type of strength and intelligence that few, if any, had anticipated. Others in the council tried to salvage the situation. They suggested sending messages to Earth, requesting a return to the table, or offering concessions. But many delegates were unsure what concessions could even matter. The humans had made it clear that they would not agree to a deal built on dishonesty or manipulation. Any attempt to rush them, persuade them, or intimidate them further would likely fail. Even all eyes of Earth recognized the new reality. Humans were not to be underestimated. Whispers of fear spread quickly. Leaders began to reconsider not just their approach to negotiation, but their assumptions about Earth itself. "They are not like other species," one voice murmured. "They don't panic, they don't argue without purpose, and they don't react predictably. If they can do this in the council, imagine what they could do elsewhere." Some delegates began to worry about past conflicts, wondering if humanity's calm decisiveness had been misunderstood or underestimated during previous encounters. Few delegates who had previously tried to manipulate humans now felt a growing sense of vulnerability. One leaned close to another, whispering, "We misjudged them. They are patient, observant, and strategic. Every attempt to trick them failed, and they left the negotiation without hesitation. We cannot afford to underestimate them." Even those who had assumed humans were merely lucky in their timing realized that this was no accident. It was deliberate, calculated, and deeply intelligent. The panic slowly transformed into a mix of respect and fear. Delegates who had once laughed at the idea of humans being capable of such precision now found themselves carefully rethinking their entire strategy. Conversations shifted from criticism to cautious admiration. "Perhaps we have treated Earth incorrectly," one leader admitted. "They do not negotiate like others, and they will not bend under pressure. We must approach them differently if we hope to maintain any alliance or understanding." Meanwhile, debates continued about what the humans' departure meant for the Council and the galaxy. Many realized that the humans had not simply walked away, they had forced the Council to reflect on its own conduct, its hidden agendas, and the way it approached diplomacy. By refusing to participate in a negotiation built on manipulation, humans had shown a level of awareness and strategy that left even the most seasoned leaders unsettled. Some delegates speculated on the future. "If humans handle negotiations this way," one said quietly, "what else are they capable of? If they are willing to walk away calmly from this, what else could they do in the galaxy? How prepared are we to face them if conflicts arise?" Others nodded silently, realizing that humans' patience, intelligence, and strategic thinking were a form of power far beyond what had been expected. Even within the Council, alliances shifted subtly. Leaders who had once been confident in their ability to pressure Earth now began to reconsider their positions. Some speculated on Earth's hidden strengths, its advanced technology, and its ability to act decisively when necessary. They began to recognize that humans had shown a type of strength that could not be ignored. It was not aggression or violence, but clarity, patience, and the ability to make a firm, deliberate choice without fear or hesitation. By the time the session ended, the council chamber had changed completely. The humans' departure left more than just empty seats. It left a profound realization that Earth was not to be underestimated. Every leader present had been forced to reflect, adjust their assumptions, and accept a new reality. The humans had demonstrated that they were not simply participants in the galaxy's political games. They were a quiet, unyielding force that would act according to principle, observation, and clear judgment. The story of humans walking away quietly spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Observers, diplomats, and other species spoke of the calm decisiveness and intelligence displayed. It became a moment that would be remembered in history, a demonstration that true power sometimes lies not in dominance or aggression, but in awareness, patience, and the ability to act with integrity. For Earth, the moment was not about triumph or showing strength for its own sake. It was about making a choice based on principle. The humans had observed, assessed, and acted with clarity, sending a message without confrontation. Peace built on lies is not peace at all. This quiet but firm action had shaken the council, forcing every species to reconsider their approach to diplomacy, negotiation, and their assumptions about Earth's resolve. In the aftermath, the council would never view Earth the same way again. The humans' calm departure had achieved more than any argument or negotiation could have. It had shown a new standard of strength, patience, and intelligence. Every leader, every delegate, and every observer realized that the humans were not easily swayed, and that any attempt to underestimate or manipulate them would be met with clear, deliberate resistance. By the end of this part, it was clear to everyone. Humans had not only protected their planet, but had also rewritten the rules of engagement for the galaxy. Their quiet strength, careful observation, and principled decision-making had left a lasting impression, ensuring that Earth would be respected, not feared, and that its representatives would be regarded with a new level of caution and admiration in every council session to come. Outside the council chamber, the humans walked calmly, their steps measured and confident. There was no celebration, no boastful gestures, just quiet clarity. They had made a choice, and they had acted on it, while the alien leaders inside the chamber were still in a state of shock and confusion. The humans were already thinking ahead, planning the next steps for Earth with the same precision and patience they had shown during the negotiation. The delegation reviewed everything they had observed. Every gesture, every hesitation, every subtle sign of deception had been noted. They understood not just the words spoken in the council, but the intentions behind them. Their mission was clear: protect Earth, maintain integrity, and never compromise on fairness. It was not about showing power. It was about demonstrating intelligence, awareness, and strength of character. News of the humans' actions spread quickly across the galaxy. Observers from various worlds discussed the calm decisiveness with which Earth's representatives had walked away. Many leaders who had underestimated humans began to reconsider their assumptions. Others who had attempted to manipulate or pressure them realized that Earth was not a planet to be taken lightly. The humans' actions had created a ripple effect, forcing every species to rethink their strategies and approach toward Earth. In the following days, discussions in other councils and diplomatic gatherings centered on one key lesson: humans were not predictable, they were patient, and they acted with purpose. Their calmness and intelligence were now recognized as a form of strength, as formidable as any military or technological power. Alien species realized that trying to deceive or intimidate Earth would not succeed. Instead, interactions would have to be conducted with honesty, respect, and fairness. Meanwhile, the humans themselves remained composed, They knew that walking away had been the right choice. It had been a demonstration of principle rather than aggression. They had shown that peace was valuable only when it was genuine, and that manipulation or dishonesty could never be tolerated. Their calm, deliberate approach had not only protected their planet, but had also established a new reputation for humanity in the galaxy, one of intelligence, patience, and unshakable integrity. The alien leaders who had witnessed the event began to understand that Earth's strength was not just in its technology or resources. It lay in its people, their discipline, their clarity of thought, and their unwavering commitment to what was right. For the first time, many delegates truly respected humans, realizing that they could not be swayed by pressure or intimidation. Earth's representatives had set a standard for diplomacy that no other species could easily replicate. Some leaders, previously confident in their strategies, admitted quietly that they had misjudged humans. They had assumed humans would respond, like other species, emotionally, impulsively, or manipulatively. Instead, humans had demonstrated a level of patience, observation, and calm decision-making that few could match. This quiet yet powerful action had shifted the balance of respect and caution toward Earth across the galaxy. As the humans prepared to leave the area, it was clear that their actions had consequences far beyond the council chamber. Their deliberate decision to walk away had caused leaders to reconsider alliances, strategies, and approaches to interstellar negotiations. The galaxy had witnessed a new form of power, one that relied not on force, threats, or deception, but on intelligence, patience, and integrity. The humans' presence, actions, and decisions had left an indelible impression. They had not shouted, threatened, or forced anyone to agree, yet they had achieved far more than most species could have imagined. They had protected Earth, asserted its autonomy, and reshaped the perception of humans throughout the galaxy. Every leader now knew that any future dealings with Earth would require honesty, fairness, and respect. By the time the delegation returned to Earth, their calm and measured approach had already begun to influence interstellar diplomacy. Other species, having observed humans firsthand, adjusted their strategies and began to approach negotiations with caution, awareness, and transparency. Earth had demonstrated a new standard for strength, not through aggression, but through principle, patience, and calculated action. In the end, the humans' quiet but decisive choice had revealed their true strength. They had shown that real power is not always loud or aggressive. Sometimes it lies in calm observation, clear thinking, and the courage to walk away when fairness is compromised. The galaxy now knew that humans were not to be underestimated. An intelligent, patient, and principled species capable of shaping events in ways others could not predict. The story concluded with a profound truth. Earth's representatives had changed the way the galaxy viewed humanity. They had proved that integrity, clarity, and courage could stand stronger than threats, pressure, or manipulation. And with that, the humans walked forward, confident, prepared, and ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy might present, knowing that they had earned the respect and perhaps a little fear of every species they had encountered.